Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this special session with Global Entrepreneurship Week and ICIC and ICIC and sponsored by Fedex. This is an incredible collaboration of all these partners to make sure that we get you some resources and a conversation around the value of networks, the value of education, and the value of making the most of all the resources that are out there. I am not going to do very much other than to set a couple ground rules here. Please go ahead and remain muted throughout the conversation. If you do have any questions for the panel, please drop them in the chat box, and I will be monitoring that and getting it to our moderator and to our panel. So without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce the president of Global Entrepreneurship Week to open this space for us. Jonathan?
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks to ICIC and Steve and to Pamela and all the team at Fedex for putting this together. Global Entrepreneurship Week is all about shedding the spotlight on entrepreneurs that have started to beat that path and to try as best we can to inspire more people to consider the path of entrepreneurship. And never has it been more important. Entrepreneurs are often very good at managing risk and uncertainty. And we think that at the times like this, when many of us are worried about our economic future, we're worried about everything from climate change, all of the health issues coming out of the pandemic, it's entrepreneurs that can give us confidence because they're used to disrupting things, they're used to taking risks. And so this is ever so exciting. I just, for 2 minutes at the beginning, we're very much looking forward to this. I'd like to just give you a very quick picture though. Global Entrepreneurship Week. Well, it is 200 countries are having national campaigns to do just that, to get more of their citizens to consider becoming job creators, solving problems, and improving the lives of their communities. And throughout this week, there's all sorts of glamorous things happening. We've got the likes of Richard Branson inspiring more young people to follow in his footsteps. Of course, we've got thousands and thousands of partners organizing competitions and events in their communities to try to get more people to kick the tires and figure, is this something that maybe I might be a part of? Because we want to tell people this is not just about spreadsheets and profit and loss. And this is about conducting experiments, figuring out a better way of doing things, teamwork, testing ideas. It's also about understanding how we deal with the things that don't work. And in fact, one of the things that I want to point out in my remarks is that there's a superb film, Hollywood production, that's being made available free of charge throughout Global Entrepreneurship Week about the people who made all the technology behind our iPhones. It's a film called General Magic. And if you go to the GEW.co website, which can point you to everything happening around the world, you can download and get a free access to that movie. I really encourage you to think about that because it's not just about the success stories this week. It's going to also be about us understanding the trials and tribulations that entrepreneurs go through. So if you want to kick back and put your feet up and watch a good film, I really encourage that. It's just available for this week. But at the end of the day, what Global Entrepreneurship Week is about, what the Kauffman Foundation's Vice President for Entrepreneurship, Philip, has written today on his blog, which he calls, I'm gonna absolutely use his term, he calls it inclusive prosperity. It's this lovely term because we realize that any economy, any community suffers when we leave people out. And so this week, we're about going into small towns, into communities, into places where they've been historically underrepresented, people who've been historically underrepresented in the entrepreneurial ecosystems and world, and finding ways to build paths, make it easier, give them confidence to be part of this exciting world of figuring out new ways of doing things and improving the lives of our fellow members of our community. So I really hope that this week you'll take a look at some of the great scholarship that's going on about this as we understand that we cannot succeed unless we address these issues. As a colleague of mine said at the opening, we did on the weekend, at the end of the day, and this isn't just about inviting people, everybody to the party and giving everybody access. It's about figuring out how are we going to make it such that everybody is dancing on the floor. And that's what we're really about this week. We really focused on that as we move forward. So I want to thank everybody for giving me just a couple of minutes to say happy Global Entrepreneurship Week. It's ever so exciting for us and very much looking forward to listening to this panel and to hearing some of the stories that are there in terms of what it really means to embark upon this battle of building and growing and running one of America's small businesses. So thank you so much indeed. I'll turn back over. I know we're going to hear from Steve and get going with the panel. So happy Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Thank you, Jonathan. And with that, I will turn it over to the CEO of the Initiative for a Competitive Inner City, Steve Grossman.
Diego, thanks so much. And Diego, thank you for your leadership. Diego is the director of our Inner City Capital Connections program, which trains this year 1,200 small business owners all over the United States and Canada. We just kicked off our 21st and final cohort in Seattle for Washington State yesterday. And we've got a national conference coming up in December. We'll have over 1,000 small business owners there. So thank you for your leadership, Diego. Thanks to my colleague, Indy Taveras, who did a lot of the staff work to put this together. Indy, thank you. And Jonathan, thank you for your leadership. Jonathan is a visionary, bold, innovative, transformative ideas to promote entrepreneurship in 200 countries around the world. Inclusive prosperity was the phrase he used, which was music to our ears, given the fact that our mission at ICIC is inclusive economic prosperity. So we're on the same wavelength with you, Jonathan. You remind me of an artist friend of mine who died a couple of months ago, Norman La Liberté, who once said, we're not here to do things that have already been done. We're here to do new things, bold things that are transformative and that leave no one behind. So Jonathan, thank you for your leadership. And to Fedex and to our dear friend, Pam Johnson, who's been our colleague for the last 5 years, thank you so much for this extraordinary partnership we enjoy. Fedex underwrites the Inner City Capital Connections program in their hometown of Memphis, Tennessee, soon to be expanded to the Dallas-Fort Worth area in 2022. And they also underwrite an award at our annual conference in December called the Champions of Global Entrepreneurship Award. And we're looking forward to seeing and hearing Sue Spence, their CPO, present that award again next month. So thank you to Fedex for the partnership we enjoy and for their sponsorship for Global Entrepreneurship Network and for Global Entrepreneurship Week. We've got 4 wonderful panelists here today, and I'll just tell you their names. You'll be hearing from them in just a moment. First, Vanessa Faggioli, Chief Financial Officer of Amerisal Foods in Los Angeles. Second, Jesse Iniguez, Director of Coffee Operations, Back of the Yards Coffee from Chicago. David Barron, co-owner of Jackie's Jams, San Diego, California. And Ann Zayed, Director of Operations and Business Development for Patriot Staffing Solutions, yes, in Fedex's hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. You'll be hearing from each of them in just a few moments. Our 4 panelists have many things in common. First, each is an entrepreneur whose bold, innovative, transformative strategy has enabled them to grow and turn challenges like the pandemic into opportunity. Second, each has had a relationship with either Fedex, its small business programs, or ICIC, or one of our initiatives that has helped them build capacity for growth. And we're going to look forward to hearing about those pathways for growth. And third, each of you sees geographic expansion beyond your comfort zone, and in some cases, global entrepreneurship and citizenship to be part of your mission, vision, and values, which is why it's so important that you're part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. We're honored to spend some time during this hour with each of you as we celebrate entrepreneurship and innovation during this pandemic, and look forward to hearing from each of you. So I'm going to ask each of you to take 3 minutes and to talk just a little bit about yourself, your business, how you pivoted during the pandemic, and what strategies did you employ to remain resilient during these times. I'll ask Vanessa to start, followed by Jesse, followed by David Barron, and finally followed by Ann. If each one of you sticks to the time of 3 minutes, we'll have plenty of time to ask each of you a very direct question about your own business and some of the ways in which you grew and developed your strategy. And then we'll have plenty of time for some dialogue between the four of you at the end. My goal is to do as little talking as possible and to have the participants hear as much from you, the entrepreneurs, as you possibly can. So let's first hear from Vanessa, followed by Jesse, David, and Ann. Vanessa, take it away.
Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Yes, nice. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vanessa Faggioli. I am the CFO of Amerisal Foods. We are a certified women-owned wholesale food distribution company. We import food products from Latin America and we distribute to supermarket chains. We bought this bankrupt business with my mom back in 2008. We had a friend of ours that was going to close the business down because he was having too many challenges. The import business is pretty tough. As an immigrant myself, when I came here, I was having a lot of issues finding foods from my native country. So what better opportunity was presented in front of us that being able to bring those native foods from El Salvador and Latin America to our consumers here. We knew immediately with my mom that we could solve a pain and we could provide our consumers those nostalgic food items at affordable prices, because they used to, the few items that people would bring, they would bring them in luggages and they were ridiculously expensive, being sold at little mom and pop stores, no supermarket chain. So in this 12 years, first of all, I've been blessed to be able to call my boss mom. We work together. We make great things happen. We empower our people to be better every day. They see us how hard they see our vision, our mission, and everything that we've accomplished is thanks to them. And we tell them everything. A really big thing is leadership in a company, but if we can't communicate to our employees our vision and mission, it is very hard for them to follow in our footsteps. So a little bit of how the business has evolved. We not only are importing food products from El Salvador, now we're doing Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, but we're also doing we're also manufacturing product here in the United States. Just in case, we like to have different strategies. And as you were asking, Steve, right now with COVID, sorry, there's some noises in my warehouse. So during COVID, the import business even now has been hit very hard. Our costs have gone up the roof. And just today I was having a meeting that we're raising prices again because it's tough. But what made us survive during COVID was not only having safety levels of inventory, that because we always have inventory, a lot of inventory here, but the product that was made in the US. So I do believe having different strategies for your business will make you resilient to whatever life brings. Look how drastic our lives have changed in the last almost 2 years. And that's a little bit about what we do. And again, I am blessed to be able to be with my mom, doing what we love every day. And to me, I don't really see it as a work. It's passion. I grew up in an entrepreneur home. Mom and dad were entrepreneurs. So to me, I was passionate to see since a very young age how they treated the employees, how they managed the employees, the business. And I was always working there, just learning and learning. I'm a very big learner. And what better school than my parents? And now, through education, and thank you, Steve and Diego and everybody at ICIC, that, I was able to join the mini MBA in steroids, that I am able to securely navigate through these uncertain times. And I'm not afraid, you know, whatever comes, we face it as is. And I'm just very excited to see what's next. I tell my people, you know, don't worry, leave the worrying to me. I got this. Let's just trust me. We're going to do fine. And that's a big trait of a leader. Just guide your people in the, in how can I say this? I know it in Spanish, but how can you guide your people in safe waters where they feel safe? Because your employees sometimes might get worried about what's going to happen with my job. And for us to lay people off has never been an option. I'm actually hired.
Vanessa, you recognize that the most important asset of your business, and I felt the same way when I ran a family business with my father for 25 years, most important asset is the human capital that you have in your business. So now let's turn to Jesse Iniguez. Jesse, the Director of Coffee Operations for Back of the Yards Coffee in Chicago. Jesse, just a quick fact that people may not be aware of, you run your business on a SEED mission, SEED being an acronym for Social Impact, Economic Development, Environmental Responsibility, and Direct Relations. Can you share a little bit about how you developed this mission, how you embody it on a day-to-day basis, and how it's enabled you to pivot and sustain yourself during an extraordinary 2 years in the history of all of our businesses? Jesse Iniguez.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, so I started the business in 2016 because we saw a hole in the we saw a hole in the market. There just wasn't any coffee shops or any coffee products that were being addressed to our community or in our community, right? And we saw that it wasn't just in Back of the Yard, Chicago, and the south side of Chicago, that this was something that was happening, is happening across the country. And that's something that we're kind of building right now to help address. Our seed model, which many people don't know that a coffee bean is actually not a bean. It's actually a seed that's in a fruit that grows on a tree, right? And it's the fruit is a cherry, and each cherry has 2 seeds that then get processed. They dried, and then we roast them here in Chicago. We get these from all over Latin America and Africa and Asia as well. And we roast them, and it changes colors. Essentially we draw out the moisture and make it into something that you can consume. And so that's how we developed kind of the seed model with that mindset. We saw an opportunity to not only start a business, but start a business differently, right? Use our assets that we have in our community to address, the things that we're lacking. And so that's kind of how we developed it. And SEED, as Steve mentioned, stands for social impact, economic development, environmental responsibility, and direct relationships. So everything that we do revolves around one or all 4 of those pillars. For example, who we hire, like we hire locally. All of our employees are from, within 1 to 2 mile radius of the coffee shop. We do that intentionally because for a couple of reasons. One is, the social impact. Many of the folks that start with us initially start as interns. We train them through this program and then get them to become baristas, and then pay them above minimum wage salaries. And on the social impact is, these are folks that again are out of a job and out of a school. In Back of the Yards alone, now to kind of give you an idea, Back of the Yards is a neighborhood that's about 2 miles square. And within that 2 mile square, this was pre-pandemic, there was over 4,500 young people between the ages of 16 and 24 that were out of school and unemployed. So we employed 12. And while that's just a small drop in the bucket, we're showing what can be done. And the social impact that has, by removing, young people that may not have opportunities, that may go on in a different route, we're giving them an opportunity for a job, a meaningful employment that pays well, and that can arise, for them to grow in the industry, right? Economic development, because they live locally, we're affecting the local economy. We're also buying from local supermarkets, we're paying rent in the area. So our employees are affecting, and that dollar that you spend at Back of the Yards Coffee, at the coffee house is multiplying, many times. Environmental responsibility, because they live close, their carbon footprint to get to and from work is very minimal. And the direct relationships, we're able to do this because of the relationships that we built with the community. We both on the recruiting aspect, we work, and on the training aspect, we work with organizations that help train them and have the funds to be able to pay them for the training period. But we do other things as well, like all of our cups, all of our packaging is fully compostable. $1 from every bag that we sell of coffee goes into our social impact funds that then get distributed to programs that promote peace and education in the community. And so, that's one of the things that I think has kept us alive, especially during the pandemic. We were hit pretty hard, at least the shop was, and also our wholesale, because many of our clients are also coffee shops and restaurants, so they had to close. But what really kept us alive is that we kept informing our community and our followers and our customers that small businesses like ours only exist if you patronize them. So especially during a pandemic, if you don't support these small businesses, they may not be, here at the end of it. And we saw so many different small businesses close because of the pandemic. And so we've been very lucky to still be alive and thriving. And again, it's many thanks because of the support, the relationships that we built, and the people that want to buy from businesses that they love and that they know are doing well by their community. You're on mute, Steve. Sorry.
My two Springer Spaniels were making some noise here, so I muted myself. You mentioned community building. I think I could have said at the beginning that community building is uppermost in the minds of every one of your missions. And Jonathan Ortmans, in his own way, was saying that earlier. Entrepreneurship builds strong, vibrant, healthy communities. That's what we're all about. And during a pandemic, it's never more important than that to do what Jesse just described. David Barron is a chef. He's the guy who's responsible for what goes into those jars. And if you've never had Jackie's Jams, you haven't lived yet, because they don't get any better than Jackie's Jams. We know David, his wife, Risa, the partners in the business. David leads the daily operations, including handcrafting all the jellies and jams. David, please send our best wishes to Risa and tell us about the business, what's happened since you bought it, and how you were able to deal with this pandemic and some of the shortages of raw materials that you must have been facing, because I've heard all about the shortages of glass containers and other things. How do you deal with that kind of an environment, and how do you satisfy your customers when things have changed so dramatically? Please welcome David Barron from Jackie's Jams.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having us here today. We bought Jackie's Jams from Jackie, actually, 12 years ago. Jackie was an older woman, and she made jam in very small amounts, and she had about 25 flavors in her arsenal. But everything was made in a size that she could actually pick up the bag of sugar. So she made very small batches of things. And she was in 7 Whole Foods when we bought the business from her. We're now in over 30 Whole Foods. And the motivation to buy the business from Jackie was because she had a toehold in those 7 Whole Foods. We got to meet her, and we were one of her customers at the Hillcrest Farmers Market, because that was the majority of her business, was selling at farmers markets. And my kids were kind of young at the time, and we would buy them jam and jelly for their PBJs every day. And one day we ran out of the Jackie's Jams, and I went to our Vons in our neighborhood, and I bought some Vons brand jam. And my son, at the time, who was about 8 years old, wasn't a very discernible eater. And he came home with his whole sandwich, except for one bite, taken out of it. And he said, "Dad, you didn't use the Jackie Jams today." And so I thought, wow, if an 8-year-old can discern that flavor, there's something here. And it got us thinking. And we told that story to Jackie. And then one day she said she was interested in selling the business. So Risa said, we should buy it. In my past life, I was a government affairs director, and I specialized in the field of gambling and the promotion of gambling on Indian reservations. And gambling became legal in California So I sort of worked my way out of a job. And my employer was very generous. And when we left, they created a great cushion for me to survive on after I left. And we used that cushion to buy Jackie's Jams and to get a small business loan. So from when we bought the business from Jackie, we've expanded, and a lot of our customers are restaurants and hotels and coffee shops. We sell retail to Whole Foods in Sproutsville, California. We co-pack for farmers, which means they'll provide the ingredients and we put their label on it, or we'll create it using our ingredients and also put a private label on it for stores and shops and restaurants. So it looks like it appears it came from them directly. We also do corporate gifts where a company will want to do hospitality for their clients or their employees, and we'll do special labeling and we'll package it, and it gets FedExed out to their employees throughout the nation or customers, and with special packaging and messages. Our philosophy is pretty simple. All of our jams basically have 4 flavors, 4 ingredients. Pure cane sugar. I only use pure cane sugar because I don't know how you get a red beet to turn white and make it powdery. It just doesn't, I can't comprehend that. But I understand where sugar comes from cane sugar. It's the fruit, lemon juice, and non-GMO pectin. So basically 4 ingredients and nothing more than 3 syllables. Everything is very simple, very easy. We don't use any preservatives. High fructose corn syrup, never. It's those just 4 ingredients. And I think that's what makes it special. And you can really taste the fruit because we use more fruit than sugar in all of our flavors, with the exception of jalapeno, which has a lot of sugar because the jalapenos are spicy. We make over 30 flavors. We distribute 14 to 15 flavors to Whole Foods. Sprouts gets 3 flavors throughout the whole state of California. But what made it really possible for us was our work through CDC in our second part of our business when we started to expand. We were part of the San Diego cohort, and we attended the workshops, and we were recipients of a grant, and we learned how to put together our deck, our presentation deck. And it was because of that presentation deck that we were able to expand, and then we got a loan from the CDC Small Business Administration. And 2019 was a phenomenal year for us. We were in a shared kitchen. We had very limited hours, but our business was really expanding. So my wife and I, we said, we need to buy our own kitchen, outfit it with everything we need. We need a warehouse that can hold a lot of supplies. So we found a blank slate and we bought all our new equipment, and we created our brand new kitchen with a warehouse and office space for our people. And then we moved in March 15th, 2020. And that's when COVID hit, and we had our shutdown in California. And I had over $2,000 in perishable materials that was already earmarked to go to hotels and restaurants, and they started canceling their orders. And we were really scared. We wound up donating jam in containers like this that was supposed to go to restaurants and hotels to Feeding America. And that was supposed to be about $2,000 or $3,000 in that was in liquid assets that we were expecting to get a return on within 14 days. So that didn't happen. This is what our product generally looks like. It gets sold in a jar like this. So after we panicked, we retooled. And I'll get into our FedEx story because that's where it really made a change for us. And we were able to ship directly to our Whole Foods clients. We used to drive to LA once or twice a week throughout different parts of LA and have to leave at 3 in the morning to get to different areas and hit 7 or 8 stores and be done by 1 o'clock because that's when the shipping closed. If there was ever an accident on the 405 or the 10, well, we couldn't make our deliveries because we couldn't get there in time. And it was just a horrible way, it was a horrible existence driving that way 2 or 3 times, 2 times a week, every week. It just cost you a giant headache. So because of FedEx, we were able to change that. And I'll get into that when it's our time on that question. Well, thank you, Steve.
again, and let me just ask you to think about exactly that topic. How did your experience with FedEx and their special support around logistics, how did that help you deal with the pandemic and particularly help you with that whole foods relationship, which is so critical? I'm now going to turn my attention to Ann. You know, Ann, I was reading about you and how you're such a big believer in second chances and giving back to underserved communities, how that you support reentry hiring and providing extra services to job seekers, how you help people with resume writing and host English as a second language lessons. And it's all about empowering the communities that you become a part of. We've been talking a lot about community building. So tell us a little bit about Patriot Staffing Solutions, how you differentiate yourself from the competition. I think I've just cited a couple of examples, and how you've been able to expand and still maintain the personal touch in communities as diverse as Tennessee, Massachusetts, etc. Ann, go right ahead.
My name is Ann Zayed with Patriot Staffing Solutions. We are based in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm the Director of Operations and Business Development. We are a full service staffing and recruiting firms. We opened at the end of 2018, not like thinking we were going into this business. So our family, this is a family owned business, and we actually owned another business at the time. We were in a small underserved community when we had the other business, and we were in direct connection with a staffing agency that was local there. So that particular community is very impoverished. And that particular agency was not paying their staff. So we actually were able to help them out by covering their paychecks at the time, because it was a desperate situation. And we, just being a part of that community, we couldn't sit back and see the people that needed to pay their light bills and their daycare bills and everything, or get groceries, not have anything. So we ended up getting into the staffing business because we actually were able to take that company's business. Through that, we have slowly expanded. And one of the reasons is because I guess we kind of act small but think big. So I do like to maintain a personal relationship with clients, as well as the people that work for us or with us. So where we go in and we talk to the companies and we see what they need, what areas they're having issues with, how we can help. And then we want to make sure that our people are taken care of, that they are paid what they're owed, what they, make sure there's no mistakes with their payments, and make sure that they are treated well and all of that as best as we can. In 2020, I participated in the ICIC program, nominated by Fedex, and it was an amazing experience for me, because although I had business experience, I had never ventured out from what I was used to. So no networking, no involvement in any other organizations, just your typical go in and do this, ABC, nothing extra. So it actually, even though 2020 was a hard time for everyone with COVID and things shutting down, I took the opportunity to grow and learn things differently, which enabled us to expand more and provide extra services. So we were able to implement things that were needed in the communities that we do work in, which you mentioned. And one of my main goals is to expand on that. So I like to give back to where we are.
Well, you do give back. And again, human capital. One of the things we teach at ICIC in our Inner City Capital Connections program is talent management, leadership development, talent development. Because you can have the best strategy in the world, but unless you center it around your colleagues, you're not going to have the team to be able to drive growth and drive innovation. Jesse, I'm going to go back to you. And I'm going to do that by also mentioning a book that I read called The Monk of Mocha. It's about how coffee was originally found, how that bean inside the fruit was found by some goats that found the caffeine and were jumping up and down, and the farmer realized that he had something special. And that's where coffee bean came from many centuries ago. The Monk of Mocha by Dave Eggers. If you haven't read it, terrific book. Jesse, I think you won the 2018 Fedex Small Business Grant Contest, which helped you expand your operations. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you leverage that grant and some of the things that you're doing to drive growth in a way that differentiates you from all the rest of the people who are in your business. You started to talk about it a little bit earlier, but maybe you can expand on it a little bit.
Sure. So I've actually had the pleasure of meeting David, the writer of The Monk of Mocha. Yeah. I actually had to meet him at the Specialty Coffee Association Expo. Great guy. But yeah, no, I think one of the things that's really helped us just in general has been having access to grants. And we've gone after grants like these, like the FedEx grant. And that helped us in many ways. One is part of what we had to do was create a video that was compelling and telling our story. And that forced us to really think about our seed model and how we implemented it. And so we did it. We already do an amazing video that we sent to FedEx that we actually use now, just in general, because of how great it was produced. But FedEx has been an amazing partner to us. One of the things that we do is, especially during the pandemic, we had to shift to online sales because people weren't shopping at the shop anymore. Even the teachers that worked across the street from the high school, that were some of our biggest, that worked at the high school across the street from the coffee shop, they were some of our biggest customers, on a daily basis. They were no longer in the area. So the only way to get coffee to people at this point in juncture was through shipping. We were able to visit Memphis and see their packaging kind of engineering. So, if you have a weird product or a unique product that you think you can't ship, FedEx will help you figure it out. And so, we discuss ways of shipping our syrup bottles without them breaking. And just even the partnership, like I can call someone at FedEx and they'll answer their phone and help us through address the challenges. Even if they themselves can't help us, they'll find the right person to help us. And I think that's been great for us. Our online, presence has grown, and we've been able to find a way to make sense of the shipping, because just shipping in general can be a huge cost to any business. And we've been able to find a middle ground and a way to make it make sense. Yeah.
Sounds to me like logistics are an important issue for most of you, perhaps not for Ann because she's in the staffing business, but for the rest of you, logistics are increasingly something you sit as CEO or as owner and worry about constantly. Vanessa, talk a little bit about, you alluded to a little bit about supply chain disruptions, and but you're also a bridge builder. That is who you are as a family. So talk about the bridge building, the logistics challenges that you face, and what would you advise other small businesses that are dealing with the global economy to do to mitigate the risks that they're facing in this global environment when goods are being held up at ports, when you can't get the food products that you need to your customers, and when you have a reputation as a service-oriented company. How are you dealing with all of that, other than staying up awake at night worrying?
Oh yeah. Well, it's as in 2018 when I was at in Boston, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Michael Porter, and he said something to me that definitely changed the way I work. And he said, Vanessa, you need to understand that in order for you to succeed in your business, you need to anticipate what's going to happen. Kind of like he said in economy, you know, we anticipate what the market's going to be like. We are anticipating. So it's, you're doing guesses in a way, but asserted guesses based on data. So a little bit of what we did before all this before COVID hit, we knew that the Port of Long Beach was already chaotic way before COVID hit. So the strategy that we did, anticipating this, we moved our containers to the Port of Hunimi, which is in Oxnard. It's a smaller port, and we get our fees are way lower than the Port of Long Beach. Now, when COVID hit, the Port of Long Beach, even now, you can see in the news, it is completely beyond chaos. And the goods, perishable goods are there. It's just they're charging people every day that the containers are in the vessels. Now when the containers come down, there's no truckers. So it's a really, really big issue happening now. What's the good thing about it? I don't bring my containers through the Port of Long Beach because we anticipated, we knew that was just it was going to fall one day. So now we're doing through Oxnard, which is cheaper in a way because everything has gone up, but it's cheaper than Long Beach, and we get our products on time. Now, as I was explaining before, because we were able to build safety nets with my mom in the business, we don't only import from one country, we also sell foods manufactured in the USA. We have been able to always have our products in the shelves of the supermarkets, regardless from where they come, because at the end of the day, and the retail industry is very hard, and at the end of the day, my buyers, they don't want to hear excuses. They just want to make sure that the product is on the shelves. Because when COVID hit, I remember we were at those supermarkets and people were taking all the foods, and the supermarkets were like, Vanessa, I need the products in the shelves. I don't care if you're out of stock. I don't care about anything. You have to bring the product here. Again, our safety nets that were into place, anticipating what might be. We always think with my mom, what's going to be the worst case scenario? So we anticipate, like right now, we're having containers leave. We're having 3 containers arrive to our warehouse this week because we are anticipating that when you do international business, also there's another risk when because of government. For example, El Salvador and Nicaragua, look what is happening right now. They're communist countries, and things from one day to another can change. So that's why we like to have different options to make sure that the consumer always has the product. Sometimes we might be running out of a flavor of product, but in the meantime, we substitute it with another flavor. So we just make sure that our consumers panic when they see those shelves empty. So we make sure that we always have them full. Usually right now we're out of stock of one item, but we usually have the other one. So we're managing between the different countries, between product made in the USA. And again, you know, I can't control the problem that is happening in the ports because that is beyond my control, but at least I can control how many containers we schedule to leave El Salvador or Nicaragua, how many how much more product I can have my manufacturers here make for me just in case. So it is very, as I said, we like anticipating on the what if. And that's what saved us during COVID. Because again, the ports, everybody, when COVID hit and in March, our business grew literally. I went out, I pretty much finished more than half of my inventory in the warehouse in a week. and my inventory in the warehouse is over $400,000. Something that also has helped me a lot is my relationships with the banks. So I have my lines of credits and loans, because right now that I'm bringing in more product, I need to make sure that I have that money to pay my manufacturers. And so that is very important.
Vanessa, thank you. And I'm going to go right to David, because David, while number one, he's located only a short distance from you down the road in San Diego. Number two, he's got to be dealing with similar logistics issues. And in addition, those glass jars are not so plentiful at the moment. And in addition, I'm sure that he's got a lot of sales that take place during the Christmas and Hanukkah season, where people buy jams, put a little ribbon around it and bring it to a holiday party under the tree or whatever. So David, talk about your logistics issues, some of the challenges you faced, how you solved them over the years to grow, and what you did to anticipate as best you can, because it's hard to anticipate a pandemic. David, go right ahead.
Thank you very much. So one of our big logistical issues is jars. We can't put our jam in jars. Well, we'll have to close shop. And at one point we were down to 28 jars, 28 cases of jars, which isn't that much. That's what we use in about a half a day. And we were scrambling to find jars. For 12 years, we used one company to get our jars. And they told us all of a sudden, they were having a bit of a problem, because we would order jars as needed. So I would order 1,000, 2,000 jars at a time. And when the pandemic hit and they couldn't fulfill our obligations to us, we worked with the California Manufacturers Association and we gave them our specs. They found about 4 or 5 other jar manufacturers for us. And so we wound up stocking up about 25 to 30,000 jars in our warehouse at a time, where before we would only need 1,000 at a time. And then all of a sudden we were told that we can't find lids for it. So we had to now find another source for lids, because our normal company, we'd order the jars and the lids at the same time because we knew they would fit on top of each other. And so now we had to find lids from another source. So now we have about 4 different jar companies we use and about 2 different lid manufacturers we use. And we have a stockpile like no one's business of lids right now. And we're constantly ordering jars, and we just keep pallets and pallets in our warehouse, because if we run out, that'll be a problem. So one of the things that happened was, so when the pandemic hit, as I told you, we had all this stuff going to hotels and restaurants, and we're no longer needing our product. But our Whole Foods orders started going on for our products that would be in jars. So we wound up going to Fedex, our local Fedex office in San Diego. We went with the manager named Steve, and we showed him what we want to do. And this is what an average case looks like. And so he came up with a solution with his staff on how we could ship about 50 pounds in a larger box that they would pack for us. We'd bring them the jar, that case, wrapped with bubble wrap around the outside. And they developed a way that we could fit about 50 pounds, that's about 3 or 4 cases in a box, and ship it within one day to all our Whole Foods throughout California and not be broken. Key word is not be broken, because Whole Foods doesn't want a messy box of jam that's full of broken glass. So that was my big fear, because when we would deliver and drive to LA, we would be ensured that by my driving that they were going to come perfectly. But now that control was taken away from me when we went to FedEx. And they developed a plan for the past year, and we never have a problem. So I don't have to drive to LA anymore. And what used to happen would be, we would service stores once a month. We would have different routes we would drive, but we'd go to stores once a month. Now we can service stores on demand. So our stores are being serviced about once a week. So once that material is off the shelf, we're able to put it back on the shelf. Then as soon as we receive an order from Whole Foods, it could be an order from one store for 30 jars, be an order for 70 jars from a different store. But we're able to turn those orders around within 2 days, and they get it within 2 days. So we were shipping quite a lot to our local FedEx office and working with our manager. And all of a sudden, we got a call from Carol Scherberger from the Phoenix office, the corporate office, saying, "We see your shipping's gone way up. We'd like to give you a corporate account." So they were able to then bring our prices down even more. So now we can ship about 50 pounds for about $10. And so that is a life-changing event for us, because we're able to get it to the store for $10. I don't have to, once again, don't have to drive to LA, and it's on demand. You get the shipment, you get the order, it gets shipped out within a day or so, and it goes out perfectly. So we're able to turn around a lot. And where other companies could not keep jam on the shelves, or they couldn't get, because they didn't have truck drivers, they couldn't get their materials, we never missed an order for Whole Foods, and we grew. So we started getting into new stores. And Whole Foods also gave us the privilege of being at eye level in most stores. And that's the key place you want to be, because they were able to rely on us to fill our orders. And FedEx was a life changer for us, because when we lost all our hotels and restaurants and coffee shops and bakeries, I didn't know what we were going to do. So we were able to manufacture and get it right to the stores immediately. And that was an incredible thing, because I thought we were going to have to close shop, and we didn't have to do that. And then we also now do all our printing through FedEx. And we have a daily pickup for our express every day. We call in for our other shipping through them, and they come when we need them to come. And so they've given me more time to work, to do what we need to do, instead of being on the road. And when we walk into the FedEx store, they know us by name, and they know how to take care of our product, and it just gets where it has to go. It's an emotional thing for me, because we would have to drive and maybe not have enough. We'd miss a stop because something would happen along the way. And so then we'd miss a store for 2 months. Now that does not happen at all. We get it every place where it needs to be within 2 days or a day.
These are wonderful stories of solutions to problems and challenges. And we've been talking a lot about shortages of raw materials, of food coming from foreign countries, of jars, of lids. But we also have a huge problem in this country, which is a shortage of human capital. And Ann is in a unique position in the staffing business to perhaps address for us the challenge that companies and organizations are facing, getting qualified people to help them grow their businesses. So, Ann, perhaps you can share a few thoughts from the point of view of a staffing organization that's all about the most important asset, which is people, how companies can think about staffing needs as they need more people, or as people leave the workforce temporarily or for a longer period of time, and how you're addressing that key issue of personnel, talent management.
Yes, I think everybody by now has heard of the Great Resignation. There has been a lot of changes. One of the things that I've compared it to is the housing market. So whereas houses were in demand and it was a seller's market with people, it has been the employees market. So they have a lot more of what they're looking for, what they're expecting, what they want in a company. So it's just been a lot of changes overall with everything. One of the things that we do is we try to go in and discuss with some of the companies that we work with options. So we look at the entire market as far as what's being paid at other places, or what positions. We look at talking to them not just about wages, but other ways they can engage with their staff. We offer like trainings, working with management, dealing with things that like diversity and inclusion. We work with them on management relationships, talking to people. One of the big words that we've heard from people in certain areas is respect. a lot of the management don't understand what they mean by that, but a lot goes into it. It's not just the general definition. People are wanting to be treated better. They're wanting more, training. They're wanting safety. COVID brought about a lot of people looking at safety in the workplace. So before there might have been workplace injuries and, OSHA would get involved, but they want to know that they're working for a company that cares about them and cares about their safety in all aspects. So there's just so many different things.
Well, what I've heard here during this last hour is inclusive prosperity. I've heard community building. I've heard people are our most important resource. I've heard customer loyalty. I've heard innovation around supply chain. And if we had another hour and we had an opportunity to listen to these 4 entrepreneurs talk about solutions that they have been able to work into their organizations, I think we could learn a lot more. But what I've been most impressed by is how each of you was able to develop a solution or a set of solutions to challenging problems that in some cases could have been existential problems, could have put you out of business had you not anticipated or pivoted or been resilient, if you had panicked, and if you hadn't had a strategy. Michael Porter was mentioned earlier, and Dr. Michael Porter, the global guru of strategy and competitiveness, who usually talks at our annual conferences, once said, strategy is often what you decide not to do. But everybody has to have a strategy. It all starts with strategy as a foundation. So I want to thank Jonathan for his leadership of Global Entrepreneurship Network and Global Entrepreneurship Week. I want to thank Pam Johnson and all of her hundreds of thousands of colleagues at Fedex all over the world for being one of the most innovative and imaginative companies on the planet Earth, and for supporting nonprofit organizations and extraordinary events like Global Entrepreneurship Week. 200 countries. Think about what that means, building strong, vibrant, healthy communities. I want to thank my colleagues at ICIC, Diego and Indy, and I want to thank these 4 entrepreneurs who put themselves out there today to share their thoughts, their solutions, their problems. You see in the chat, it's all about taking that risk, and the thanks for the time to share it. You've got to take risk in business. It's all a matter of risk and reward. Each one of you is out there every day taking risk, hopefully benefiting, creating wealth in your communities and for your employees. My guess is a lot of them are BIPOC employees. And this is a society in which we must build wealth, reduce poverty, build strong, vibrant, healthy communities. And each of your companies is doing that every day of your lives. So thank you so much for all being here with us today. Thank you for participating in Global Entrepreneurship Week. Have a wonderful evening, and we're profoundly grateful to each of you for your energy, for your optimism. You make optimism a way of life. And that is something I take away from this conversation.
And Steve,
have a great evening, and thanks to Rose Flanoral, our colleague. And I'm going to turn it back to Diego to end it. Diego?
Thank you, Steve. And before we close, I want to thank everybody once again and particularly to all our entrepreneurs for taking the time out to join us. And I'll give the last word to Jonathan Ortmans.
Yeah, I want to add my thanks too. I just love these, love what I've heard today. Anything we can do to help each and every one of you and others on this thing, don't hesitate to get in touch. But Steve, thank you for your leadership on this. And a special thanks also to Fedex. You know, they told us don't talk about Fedex, okay? This isn't about promoting Fedex, but I just want to say, we hear all over the world these stories. You guys are really awesome, an awesome company. We typically have only partnered with philanthropies, and I just want to say it's just fantastic to hear real life stories of how you're really helping people and improving lives. And one last little information people can use. We're very proud during the pandemic that we gave away more than $7 million in $10,000 grants. And it's so nice for me to hear a couple of you say that some of those grants that weren't necessarily our grants, but those small little grants that FedEx was doing is just instrumental in helping people to make it through that period. And especially with our partner, Hello Alice, I encourage you all, there's plenty more grants out there. Take a look at that. I'm delighted to hear that those can really make a difference between staying in business and pulling out of business. So happy Global Entrepreneurship Week, and thanks to everybody for letting us be part of your day. We really appreciate it.
Have a great afternoon.